Thank you very much. This is our Fargo South High Jazz Orchestra, which is our middle band, made up of both sophomores all the way through seniors. My name is Race Hoagland. I'm the band and jazz director here at South High. That first tune you also heard was Bye Bye Blackbird, a classic jazz standard. We heard solos from Orion Gustafson on alto saxophone, Yvette Lovett on guitar. Now, we thankfully have a lot of rhythm section players in this band, so we're going to be switching things around. We had Seth first on drums, and now we're moving over to Clay on drums. And Yvette's going to play some piano, Reed's going to play some guitar, and we've got some vibes and congas from Kyle. So this next tune is called Stolen Moments by Oliver Nelson, arranged by Paul Jennings. Oh, solos will also be Kyle on vibes and Shay on trombone. All right. All right, thank you very much. This next tune we're going to do is a feature for one of our seniors. We have a lot of seniors in this group, which is pretty cool. If you are a senior, go ahead and raise your hand and be recognized. Woo! Some of these seniors even play in multiple jazz bands, which is really cool, as well as doubling on different instruments, which is a lot of fun. So we're going to feature Cameron Nylander on a tune called Goodbye Pork Pie Hat. It's a classic Charlie Mingus tune. And he's just kind of going to kick it off for us once I adjust that mic for him. thank you very much. We've got two more for you, and then we'll take a little short intermission because we have another jazz band after this, as well as a big combined thing, which will be a lot of fun. You guys have been so great so far, so thank you for that. This next tune is called Trofeo de Bolos. Do you guys remember what that means?
Bowling trophy.
Bowling trophy. Do we have any bowlers around here? This is for you guys. This one's a cool little Latin piece. It's gonna feature Jackson, one of our other seniors, on alto saxophone. Yeah, Jackson. All right, y'all, we've got one more for you before our little intermission. This tune is kind of a classic. I heard it when I was actually in high school. Mr. Severson brought it out with one of the jazz bands during one of the concerts, and I was like, oh my God, that song is so cool. And then the kids told me their name. Or I mean, the people that were in that jazz band told me the name of the tune, and it's called Grease Weezer. whatever that is. So if you like Grease, this one's for you, I guess. This one's going to feature a couple more seniors. We've got Ryan again on alto saxophone. Yes. As well as Shay Nelson on trombone. Again, yes. Sweet, sweet. It's also going to kind of feature our rhythm section a little bit, so you'll hear them grooving out, which will be kind of cool. Thanks again. Please don't leave after the intermission. The Top Jazz Band has been working really hard, and also this is my last concert. If you didn't know already, I'm going to be taking a year off living in either Chicago or Minneapolis, working towards getting my master's. So this is, yeah, thank you. Yeah. This year has been awesome. These guys, especially you seniors, have been so fun this whole year. Having 3 jazz bands was a dream of mine when I first got the job at South. You know, I would always think about when I was in, or not actually when I was in high school, but before I got into high school, like my siblings played in multiple jazz bands under the direction of John Severson. So my goal is to try and build up this program and get it to a point where we could have 3 jazz bands, one of which being audition only, which will be after the intermission. One thing you might have also noticed is I have a little farewell box out there. I'd love something to remember everyone by, so if you want to leave me a note or pictures or anything that you might have that might be, that will be appreciated. Just don't put your trash in there, that would be kind of lame. Anyway, so one more and then we'll break for a brief intermission. This is Grease Weezer by Vince Norman. Thank you so much. We'll take a brief intermission, about 10 minutes. Stretch your legs, grab a drink, go to the bathroom quick, and we'll see you back with the Jazz Collective. Thank you.